Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by Paul Dottino. The phone number for you is 201-939-4513. Hello, everybody. So the owner meetings down in Palm Beach are at a wrap. We only had 2 rule changes go into effect. The kickoff, Paul, being moved to the 35-yard line if there's a touchback, which I think is a fine rule. You're going to get more kickoff returns that way.
Indeed.
I like it. Good stuff. Teams will be less likely to kick the ball through the back of the end zone and into the end zone to get those touchbacks. And then the second rule that got adopted is that the overtime playoff rules have been adopted for the regular season. There is not a 15-minute overtime period, which they should have. They'll get there eventually. They have a 10-minute overtime period. It takes the league a time to get where they need to go on these things.
Yes.
But those are the 2 rule changes that were adopted. All the other ones, as far as I understand it, were tabled until the May meetings, though. I don't think I ever heard an official word on the automatic first down for the legal contact or defensive holding. I didn't see anybody say anything about that particular rule change. But other than that, those are the big pieces of news. Paul talked about the stuff from Joe Shane on Monday. Anything from Brian Dable yesterday that jumped out at you?
Not really, John. I think, he echoes everything that Joe said because they are so simpatico. These guys are on the same page. They're not going to really say anything different from one another. So, no, I was not surprised or I was not alerted to anything by what he said. I guess the only item of small interest is how much tape study he did on Russell Wilson.
Yeah, a lot of plays.
I mean, he
said he watched every play.
I mean, he really dug in. Really dug in on Russell Wilson.
What was the total again? 8,500 or something like that?
It was a ridiculous number.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I'll be frank with you, okay. I don't know I don't know how many days it took him to do that, but I can tell you what,
that's a lot.
That's a massive headache.
That's a lot. All right, so let's get to our guest today. We're going to talk Alabama prospects, and we're going to take your calls at 201-939-4513. We bring in Ryan Fowler, who's a host for 102.9 The Tide down in Tuscaloosa. Ryan, you got John Schmeelk and Paul Dottino up here in East Rutherford, New Jersey. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Now, I got to ask, where's my guy Howard Cross at? Okay.
Howard is not on today, unfortunately, Ryan, but he will be very excited to hear you tell us all about these Alabama prospects. So I will admit he's a little more excited about the Notre Dame prospects this year because his son is one of them.
Sure, absolutely.
He is also, and by the way, I'm happy you're on today, Ryan, because I owe an apology. I'm the idiot that has texted you either 2 or 3 times over the last 4 months trying to text the Ryan Fowler that works for Bleacher Report. And I actually said it to the wrong Ryan Fowler on the phone, and I've apologized both times to you. So I apologize in person for that once again.
And by the way,
listen. I've actually featured Ryan. He's a heck of a draft analyst too, and my audience gets tricked out when I say we're going to Ryan Fowler coming up next. They're like, what? But yeah, I love to Ryan. Ryan's a great analysis, and there's a few of us Ryans out there. There's a Ryan Fowler that played linebacker at Duke a few years ago. So there's not many, but
isn't there a baseball player too? Isn't there wasn't this for the Cubs a Ryan Fowler? Do I have that right?
You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's another one out there. So any Ryan Fowlers, please step to the front of the stage. Please, come on in.
Ryan, I just want to make you feel at home because Howard's not here today. I'm simply going to say, Roll Tide!
Roll Tide. So Howard Cross, I hope you're out there listening somewhere. Roll Tide, and man, I tell you, that was my generation when Howard was a player here at the University of Alabama. Derek Thomas, Howard Cross, Bobby Humphrey, Cornelius Bennett. My. That's how I became an Alabama fan growing up and ended up going to the University of Alabama because those guys like that. And so I'm kind of emotionally connected. Every time I come on every year and hear Howard's voice, it just reminds me of my childhood days growing up in the great state of Alabama.
Yeah, and I apologize. It was Dexter Fowler was the second baseman for the Cubs. My mistake.
Oh, yes. Speed guy. Tons and tons of speed. I mean, I have nothing in common with Dexter Fowler, okay? I mean, this guy could get on first and he'd be the third. And, it'd probably take me, all day to get there. So, yes, I remember him now since you said that. Yes,
all right,
speed guy.
Let's get to the Alabama prospects. I'm going to start with – I'm going to go defense first because I think a guy that not enough people are talking about this year, Ryan, is Jahad Campbell, who Paul and I are at the Combine every year. And, they put all the linebackers out there at the same time. There are podiums all next to each other. And, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and we played, you have these worksheets for school. I'm getting somewhere with this. Stay with me. And you have the game where it's like, which one of these don't belong? And you have to pick out which item in the group does not belong with the rest of the items. And looking at Jahad Campbell, standing next to the other linebackers in the draft class, it looks like he should be there at a different position.
Yes.
Because he was that much bigger and better put together than the other linebackers. You're all like 225, 230 pounds max, 6'1", 6'2". And Jahad Campbell sitting up there like 6'3", 250, looking like a brick house.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's an off-ball linebacker for you guys. He came in as an edge player. Does he have multi-positional versatility here? What is an NFL team going to get if they draft Jahad Campbell, which I believe, by the way, could happen in the top 20?
You know what? Looking at Jahad Campbell, and I don't mean to be just a sunshine pumper, and I'll try to, provide some negative on some other players, but when I look at Jahad Campbell, 3-down linebacker, you mentioned he could play, in the middle, but you could also, listen, if you're desperate at edge, he could do that, because Alabama had kind of a situation this year. They were a little thin at the edge, and then they were a little bit, I guess, had some depth, if that is such a thing in current college football. And so they were able to move him around. I mean, really, but he's a guy that will shock you with his coverage in space. I mean, he is a guy that if you put on a tight end, he's an athletic enough linebacker that he's not going to be that big of a mismatch. You're going to get mismatches, especially in the National Football League, but he's a guy that can make up that difference. He'll fool you with his speed. And I went to the pro day the other day, and I was so disappointed that I was not going to be able to see him kind of go through. He had something tweaked. Now, listen, he never came over to the media, so I don't even have any information as far as, what it was. He was in a little bit of a brace, so there was no way that we could kind of get access to him. But I was excited to see him. But you're right. Physically, I think when you go back and look at what Matthew Ballou did to him, from a speed, strength standpoint, he was the new strength conditioning coach that came in, and it took a few years to kind of get his system, but he was a speed guy. I think Jahad Campbell benefited from that, and I think you looked at his stock just continue to go up under Kane Womack, Chuck Morrell, those defensive assistants. I'm just naming Chuck because he coached those inside backers a lot. That position group was really the strength that Alabama can count on. His leadership is another part. It takes a lot of moments to galvanize a team when Nick Saban walks out and you have 30 days that you can leave. It was players like Jahad Campbell, Tyler Booker that kept this team together and kept them from not, leaving all into the portal and leaving Kellen DeBoer with even less than what he ended up with.
If I were an offensive player, Ryan, what would bother me with him on the other side of the line of scrimmage is that it's clear he's very instinctive and he knows where he's going and he's got a purpose and he sheds.
He's a smart player, too.
He sheds guys. He disengages from blockers and he gets to where he's got to go.
Yes. No. Yes, absolutely. And I've watched him take some really, really strong offensive linemen and just get them away from it. And so I think that goes back to that technique when you look at Kane Womack and Chuck Morrell. I mean, there's some technique there that is really impressive. But strength, I've just watched him develop. It's kind of fun. I get a chance. You guys get players that are mostly always developed. But as you mentioned, coming in as an edge and also kind of growing into that linebacker spot where he was the alpha dog over there. It's fun to see that player development side. And I can't think of another player in this year's class that came in, no doubt high profile, but developed more than Jahad Campbell. I mean, he just took so many steps. Every time you go, okay, his ceiling is there, there would be another step. There would be another step that he would do something. And that injury, how it will impact, his draft status, if that will make teams a little hesitant or what even it is. I mean, I've heard elbow, but it was not – I didn't look like a shoulder to me the way that he was wrapped up. But who knows? It could have been, I guess, anything in the upper extremity. But I think Jahad, from where he came in as an edge guy to where he left, transformational when you look at the development side.
All right, I want to stick on the defensive side of the ball here. Tim Smith is the other guy I want to touch on here, Ryan. Defensive tackle. It just seems like a real solid player. I believe he was at the Senior Bowl, right, if I remember correctly. And I thought, again, it's just a really solid guy. You can plug in there. You're going to get good run defense out of him. I'm not sure how much he's going to rush the passer, but he could be a good back-end rotational guy as your third or fourth defensive tackle in the pros.
And I think there's so much. I talked to a defensive line coach a couple of weeks ago about Tim Smith, And I will say this, I kept waiting for him to take that next step as a defender because I thought he was going to be that next run of great, defensive lineman at the University of Alabama, that he was going to take that big next step. I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but in some ways maybe I am a little bit because I just thought there was more. This year he gave you more production than he did in the years past. And maybe that was, he's still learning a new defense, maybe. But you did see the flashes. The potential's there. I mean, it is there for Tim Smith. And I think this was no doubt was his best year. But I still think there's more somewhere that coaching staff, got out of him. But it doesn't feel like that ceiling is reached because you'd talk to guys in practice and you'd say, man, he really showed flashes of really, really dominance. And then at times, I don't want to say go to sleep, but maybe he got a little bit bored. I don't know it, but it was not that he was taking plays off, but there was no doubt there was a gap from where his domination was to where some of the plays where he was just kind of just average, right? I mean, he took that. You see the potential, but you wasn't able to consistently see it every single play from my perspective.
All right, let's turn it back to the other side where the pink elephant in the room is named Jalen Milroe.
I think it's maroon elephant, not pink elephant, right?
Okay, he's maroon. Yeah. Whatever.
Crimson, guys.
Crimson,
Ryan,
crimson, obviously. Sorry, crimson. Not
yes. Ryan, tell me this. Since the Combine, since John and I were in Indy, it's quite clear that Jackson Dart became the number 3 rated quarterback consensus-wise, and Milroe slipped down to number 4. So I'm going to ask you, sell me on why he should be the 3rd quarterback taken in the draft and possibly even sneak into the bottom of the first round.
I'm not sure I can. I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I think Jalen's best football is still ahead of him. But I think when you look at him, if you're going to draft him and you're going to draft him that high, he's probably going to have to play quicker than he needs to. I think he needs to be a guy that sets back, takes some steps. Leadership is there. The deep ball is there. The running ability, mobility, as we see the NFL kind of progressing towards that. But I think the area that he really struggles with is consistency in that short intermediate throws. Now, does the arm, it's there. It's there. And listen, I think Jordan Rodgers did an amazing job through his NFL pro day workout. I did think that was his best day that I've seen him throw. I thought he was very consistent. I thought he was very, wasn't hesitant. His biggest problem is he doesn't leave consistently enough to release the football. Now let me kind of calculate this in. Could it have been a quarterback competition? Could there have been something there that he said, the only way that I'm going to lose this job is if I go out here and throw interceptions, if I go out here and get – and he did that at times. I mean, if you look back at Oklahoma, that was a big loss out in Norman where he threw pick sixes and just did not look like the player that he's capable of. Other games like LSU where you're going, hey, this guy, Georgia, go back. I mean, coming out of the Georgia game, there was people saying that, and I'm not an NFL draft analyst, but there was people saying that he could be the number 1 overall pick. He showed you that potential. But it's almost like if you take away some of that his fastball, where's his break-in pitch? The short intermediate throws are just not, in my opinion, consistent enough. Does he make them? Yes. Does he make them every single play? That's the area that I would be a little bit concerned. And I know when we talk with him, he said, I can do everything they can do. They can't do everything I can do. And that's true, but they also can be more consistent on that short intermediate throws. That's where I think his weakness was, but I think it's also fair to point out, yes, you had Ryan Williams. You had Jeremy Bernard. But that wide receiver room was not a strength of this Alabama team. It was not. It was probably the weakness of this team. So maybe we look back and say, well, you give him better talent, because I saw him in pro day throw to Isaiah Horton, which will probably play in the NFL. Ryan Williams definitely will play in the NFL. Jeremy Bernard will have a chance to play, in the NFL. Maybe he's a mid-tier wide receiver. I watched him throw to guys like Jam Miller, should get a chance next year. The consistency was there. And like I said, Isaiah Horton was really the difference maker. And for him to throw with Isaiah Horton, that was not a part of his team last year. So that's a different wide receiver that he showed you, hey, I can connect with these guys. I do think that Jalen can play in the NFL. I just don't know if I would be a team that would say, I'm going to take an early pick on him. I would almost prefer that he would draft, from an Alabama perspective, and just kind of wait a little bit. Let him take some steps as a player. But to be fair, look at the coordinators that he's went through. I mean, he's not had stability there at the coordinator spot.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see some steps under Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan that I had not seen the previous time. Remember, Bill O'Brien told him that he needed to change positions. That was his first coordinator. Said that, and that probably hurt his development a lot. Tommy Reese came in, was able to get some things out of him. But Kalen DeBoer took him to the next step. But I just don't know if I see enough consistency in that short intermediate throws to maybe draft him in that first round. I don't know if I can make that argument.
Ryan, the inconsistency thing really shows up in the red zone, which, by the way, plays into what you're talking about with short and intermediate throws because the field gets smaller. And we all know that in the NFL, hey, man, there's no excuse. You're settling for threes instead of sevens. That's how you lose games.
Of course, he can just run it in.
Yes,
Sure.
he can.
Great point. Yeah, and he did that a lot. But that red zone was a struggle. I don't know what his percentage was down there, but it was not good. It was just very inconsistent, and it showed up quickly. But it was just like the little passes. Like he gets the hardest ball there. I mean, the medium to deep ball is consistently. I mean, he throws one of the best deep balls out there. But it's the lack of consistency in the short intermediate throws would be my hesitation on him.
So, Ryan, I just want to follow up one more time because obviously quarterbacks are a big topic here with the Giants. I agree with you, by the way. I think your analysis is right on. What's you think the source of that inconsistency? Is it, and I know none of us are quarterback coaches, so we're all doing the best we can here. Is it mechanics? Is it him not seeing things quickly enough so then he's late and he's trying to squeeze it in there? He can't get it in there because he's late. He's not seeing it fast enough. What do you think is the source of that inconsistency in the short and intermediate passing game?
I think it's a lack of confidence. I do. I can't come up with anything else. Maybe you can look at footwork. Maybe there's a quarterback specialty out there. I've heard that, but I can't explain that. I hear people say his platform at times is very unstable, but I don't understand that enough to kind of break that down.
Of course.
But I think it's just the confidence that he doesn't believe at times that he can make that throw. And it's almost like he hesitates for just a nanosecond. And that's the issue. It's like, because I'd be in front of the TV, not in the press box. I'd like, throw it, let it go. And many times when he would let it go, it would be there. But it was almost like he was hesitant in throwing the football. That's the area, and he's got to have a short memory. That's something that's got to develop in him. Because one bad play, an interception, and it just looked like he was lost from a confidence standpoint. And I'm sure that has something to do with some of the negative talk from coordinators in his past, not this year, but in the years past. Maybe that's where, when you look back and you listen to his talk and his kind of argument, maybe that's where it comes from. That lack of confidence goes back to that, that coordinator side of things. Maybe that he just didn't feel as comfortable. But I think if you can get his confidence, the ability's there, and somebody's going to get a bargain on him. And as we know, quarterbacks are hard to come by in the NFL, especially with his ability. I mean, look at his speed. I mean, how many quarterbacks out there ran a 4.37 according to the reports? Either way, if it was quick on the hand time, maybe it's a 4.4. Either way, I mean, I'm sitting there with my stop, and I'm at 4.42. I mean, it is, regardless wherever it is, whatever range you want to put it in. He has speed, and I watched him so many times just take advantage of that. That's going to be a threat that you can't coach. That's his skill set.
All right, Ryan, Tyler Booker, a mountain of a man.
Love him.
He is just a moose and a road grader in the run game. I do worry about a little bit of his agility, though, in terms of pass protection at the NFL level.
His testing at the Combine was very poor.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how much of an issue is that going to be?
I think when you look at Tyler Booker, I never saw that struggle. When you look, I mean, I don't know his pass numbers, but I know it was very, very low, giving up pressures, giving up sacks. I don't see the questions. I know in the NFL, we scrutinize players to the next degree, and rightfully so, because you're going up against the best of the best. But I didn't see those struggles. When I saw Tyler Booker, I saw a dominant offensive lineman from day one to the end of his career. So I didn't see that in him. I have no doubt from him. And I think when you have a Kalen DeBoer standing in front of the media, and he said he's the greatest leader I've ever been around, that's a value. I mean, and I think Nick Saban would probably echo some of those same sentiments around him. Mm-hmm. But that's one that I've never heard. Listen, Kalen DeBoer, he gives out compliments, but that's a heck of a one. He's the greatest leader I've ever been around. He's been around some pretty big dudes. His assistant coach days, his head coaching days at UW, putting in, guys like Michael Penix in the NFL. But when he said that, that's a comment that grabbed me. I don't know if I question, because I didn't see that struggles here. But I also saw him dominate. And he's a guy that kind of an old school throwback guy. He doesn't quit. I mean, he gets your guy on the ground, he's going after somebody else. I mean, like if you'll watch him on some of those run blocking stuff, It's like a continuation. He hits one guy, knocks him down, he's going after somebody else. I mean, it kind of reminded me of seeing old John Hanna tapes, where John would take out multiple, defensive players. That's what Tyler Booker gives you. I don't see the doubt in him that other people do.
No, look, I agree. I didn't watch him until after the combine, Ryan, and I went and I watched the tape. I'm like, wow, I know he didn't work out well, but it doesn't show up when you watch him. So I'm with you. I don't have any. I think he's a very, very safe player, and any team that drafts him will be lucky to have him. Tell me about the two tight ends coming out of Alabama. Two very different types of players, but I think both are interesting in their own way.
And you look at ways that they could be used. I mean, take Robbie Oates for just a minute. Playing in a traditional fullback role, he checks that box. In the roster limitations in the NFL, he's a guy that can play multiple positions and kind of give you, but that tight end ability really emerged this year. And, we were just talking about Jalen Milroe. There was a little connection with him and Robbie Oates. Robbie Oates showed you that he's got some really good hands. And I saw that. I did not mention that, but he did work out with Milroe in some of the pro day passing drills. So Robbie's got some hands that maybe coming into this year, I didn't even know was there, but we all know that Kalen DeBoer loves to be able to use those tight ends. So really, it was a shortage that he was asked to do something, and he was able to check that box. But then when you look at C.J. Dupree, another guy that's got probably better hands than we've had at the tight end position in quite a while here. I mean, I wish Howard was on to kind of point out some tight ends, but I guess I'd have to go back to maybe like O.J. Howard. It's been a little bit since Alabama's had a pretty good set of hands at that tight end position. C.J. Dupree transferring in gave Alabama 2 years of really, really good service, and a guy that looked in better shape. Not that he was in bad shape, but he's taken some steps physically in his conditioning program. I just thought he ran good, looked like a guy that could give you a lot of things, and could also be a multiple talented tight end, not just a pass catcher, but also a guy that can seal that edge on that outside, which is very valuable. I think both those guys, when you blocking standpoint, no doubt they could be a catching responsibility, but they're a little nasty when you look at blocking. And this is an offensive line that struggled at times. They had to keep the tight ends in, so you may not see the numbers that other tight ends were able to showcase because they were asked to stay in a lot. But that blocking skill set developed because of that. They were a huge help, and I don't know where Alabama would be. And going back to Milroe, he was pressured a lot too. I mean, that offensive line, it was consistent at times, but very inconsistent at other times, if that makes any sense at all. They were better run blockers than they were pass protection. But I think C.J. Dupree and Robbie Oates gave Alabama something that they needed, especially this year. I think the numbers in that system would have been a lot more if that offense would have been a little bit better.
All right, Ryan, final question. I want to ask you about the program in general, because I think this is probably one of the shallower groups of Alabama prospects we've seen in a while, to not have like a defensive lineman or a pure edge rusher going in the first two rounds is just not common, over the past decade. And I think it's interesting. It's the first year that Nick Saban's not there. So I just wonder how Kalen DeBoer's doing. Has he gotten a lot of transfers? Is the recruiting classes, are they where they used to be? Is this a transition period for Alabama? Just kind of let us know where the program's at with, DeBoer going into his second offseason here, trying to build the program in his image after Nick Saban's retirement.
Well, I think it's in really good shape. I think the world of college football has changed, and I think Nick Saban told you that when he hung up the headset, right? When he says, I'm out, I'm done, I can't do it anymore. He couldn't do it at the pace that he set the standard up for the expectation. I think Kalen DeBoer's got a program that when you think about, for me, my stamp of validity doesn't do anything to it, right? Oh, it's good, it's good, it's good. But look at the dudes, because we're talking about, most time when I'm on with you guys, we talk about 7, 8, 9, 10 players from Alabama.
Yeah.
Look at the dudes that came back this year that said, I believe in what he's doing. I believe in what he's doing. Whether you're talking about a Damani Jackson, whether you're talking about a LT Overton, whether you're talking about a Deontay Lawson, go through the list of the guys who decided to come back. To me, that's a confirmation of, there's some things developing. I think when you look at this team, this may be the shocker. Alabama's being kind of doubted 8, 9, 10 range when you look at some of these preseason rankings. I think Alabama can surprise you. I think wide receivers is going to be a strength. I think when you look at the talent and the depth there, probably the best in the country, top to bottom in that wide receiver room. Quarterback room's taking a step, maybe in the right direction, more fitting with what Kalen DeBoer wants to do offensively. Ryan Grubb coming in from the Seahawks, the old connection with Kalen DeBoer. I think Alabama could be a team that, not that you're a betting guy, but you go to Vegas, you see those numbers, you're going, I can get Alabama to go and win the SEC with this. There's some numbers there that really grab you. I think this Alabama team is going to shock a lot of people as long as they can navigate injuries. Injury to left tackle, you're in trouble, right? Because you just don't have the depth that you do. You have to be starting some guys there that's pretty raw as far as talent was. They brought in a big class of offensive linemen. I think this Alabama team could be a team that could hoist up a trophy at the end of the season if things go their way. And I'm not trying to put more expectations, but Alabama fans, be patient. Kalen DeBoer is building something special in Tuscaloosa.
Ryan, if I could just sneak one more in here, and I know this does not matter to the people in the top 25 poll or the people in Tuscaloosa, but we know since Nick Saban has been there, as far as we're concerned, and John can attest to this too, we've talked to a bunch of Alabama guys who came through this Giants locker room. And to those guys, when you draft someone from the Crimson Tide, you add a cup of water, a tablespoon of sugar, and they're ready to play in the NFL because that's what Saban used to do to get them ready. My bigger question is from the NFL perspective. Now that DeBoer is in there, are these guys going to be add a cup of water and add a tablespoon of sugar, or are they going to need more work to become NFL ready?
Right. Taking Nick Saban and saying, yes, he's the greatest football coach to ever walk the sidelines. And Ozzie Newsome, I got to quote him. He said, when you draft an Alabama guy, you have a guy that's got a PhD in football. Other schools have an undergrad or a master's, but you got a PhD in football. But let me tell you, when you look at assistant coaches that last 4 or 5 years, there was a significant drop-off with the quality. That's why Coach Saban, it was not the players. He was no longer getting the assistant coaches, those top-notch A-tier assistant coaches.
Yeah, Kirby Smarts of the world, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the quality. I mean, it just. I mean, look at Tommy Rees. I'm not trying to criticize Tommy Rees, but he was not his first option. His first option was Ryan Grubb that he was trying to hire away from Kalen DeBoer, but he didn't get him. Then he goes to number 2. Then he goes to 3 and 4. He was no longer getting those top assistant coaches. Defensive coordinator had to go to Kevin Steele. It was not his first option. He just could not land those assistant coaches consistent enough because they didn't want to connect their wagon to his truck and say, well, yeah, look at Tommy Rees. I mean, great example. He leaves his alma mater, comes down to Tuscaloosa, Nick Saban retires. Literally, he leaves his alma mater as an offensive coordinator, and so it kind of burned him. I mean, I'm sure that, and he ends up back at Cleveland, the Browns, coaching tight ends. I look and I think about the quality of assistant coaches. This program, if you want to compare the first 5 years, yeah, there was a first 10 years, but then that last 5, there was a drop-off even with Coach Saban that I didn't see. That, yeah, they were still putting guys in the NFL, but I saw a drop-off with the quality of assistant coaches in that last 3 to 4 years, really that last year. I'm looking out there going, how many of these guys would be coaching, just draw a number out, 2014. How many of these guys are better than any of those other assistant coaches in 2014, 2015, 2016? I mean, look at Brian Dable, a guy that you're talking about in 2016, and I love Brian. I'm pulling for him when I see the Giants out there because he was so kind to me here. I thought he was very creative with Jalen Hurts and won a national title at the University of Alabama. But the quality of assistant coaches that he was getting towards the end, I think that's where Kalen DeBoer makes up. When you look at the quality of assistant coaches, whether you're talking about Jamarcus Shepard, whether you're talking about Kane Womack, whether you're talking about Mo Linguist, just go through the list. There is some quality there. I don't want to say and take a shot at Coach Saban, but I think in some ways it may be better, especially when you compare that last 4 or 5 years of the tenure.
Strong words. Ryan, good stuff, man. Always appreciate it. I'll send you an Aaron Tech suit, and we'll talk next year.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, appreciate you guys. You guys have a great day, and roll tide to Howard and all those big Alabama fans up in NYC. Thank you, guys.
We got plenty of them. Thank you, Ryan. That's Ryan Fowler, radio host on 102.9 The Tide in Tuscaloosa, covering the Alabama Crimson Tide. We've had Ryan on a bunch the last few years, always talking Alabama prospects, and I thought that was very informative.
His Milroe take was pretty stark.
Hey, look, he's not. Look, if you just go by the level of his play currently, he's. I mean, I have him as like a third, fourth round type. You're betting on upside. That's what you're betting on. Which there's plenty of, by the way. Plenty of, but you're betting on it.
They say potential kills head coaches is what they say.
Yeah, or they develop into it and they save the franchise.
That can happen. It can happen.
Hasn't happened very often, though.
No.
Quarterback projects, as we've spoken about. I mean, you should be all over this. As you love your third-day quarterbacks and your second-day quarterbacks.
I don't love him.
Doesn't matter, though. You love those second and third-day quarterbacks. Just, draft them, they're going to become great.
I'm a Kyle McCord guy. I told you that. I like McCord. Shuck and McCord are my back-end quarterbacks in this draft.
The big stiff that just stands in the pocket and can't move. Paul's all about it.
He's a pocket guy.
Oh, man. 201-939-4513. We'll get to your calls here. Just a reminder, folks, Giants Huddle podcast. Check it out. The Jameis Winston interview is up there from a couple days ago. Is draft season up yet, Pearson? It is. Draft season's up there as well. I recorded Tony Pollin yesterday. We do our top 10s at all the positions, and we talk about the quarterback extensively because we do offense yesterday. Next week will be defense. So go check out Draft Season, Giants Huddle Podcast. It's on the Giants Podcast Network podcast feed, or go to Giants.com or the Giants app. You can sort through them and find all of those podcasts. All right, let's start off with James in Georgia here, Pearson. James, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's up? How are you, man?
I'm actually in the elevator in the hospital right now.
So, whoa.
Yeah.
I hope everyth's all right, buddy.
I told Pearson I was in Poughkeepsie. I'm actually in Newburgh. My grandma's in the hospital, 92 years young. So,
whoa.
Life is short. Giants fans all over the world,
Well, we wish you all the best.
Yes. Best to you and your family, my friend.
So with the having the Alabama guy on, I know trying to predict or I guch mock drafts. I don't really do all that. But here's what I call, knowing that y'all had the Alabama guy on. What are a couple scenarios that y'all can possibly put together? Thank you. For maybe moving back up in the first round to pick specifically, not just like position, but an Alabama guy. In the second round and maybe a third round, who do you think a sweet spot for an Alabama guy would be with our picks based on your conversation y'all just having? I'll let y'all go. Let's go, Giants. Love y'all. Love the show.
Thanks, James.
See you next time.
Best to you and your family, man.
Be good.
Hope your grandmother gets better and is doing okay. I don't think Jihad Campbell's realistic because he's going to be long gone by the time the Giants get to the round 2.
Yep.
I'll tell you, and Field Yates actually had Tyler Booker falling to the Giants at 34 in the mock draft he just put up. I would be very surprised if Tyler Booker got that far into the draft. To me, he is a 18 to 27 guy all day long. He's so solid. He's good. He's a good player. And in a draft where I think there's so many unknowns and not a lot of true first-round picks, a team's going to find comfort and safety in a player like Tyler Booker where you know what you're getting, and they're going to pick him before 34.
Yeah.
I would love to get him. Look, he's there at 34. I run to the podium. Bring him on. But
he already has the size, the power, the demeanor right now to step onto an NFL field and win reps.
And he's not the first person that I've heard discuss his leadership that way.
Yeah. Well,
so.
Yeah, I don't see any way he gets to the Giants
in
the second round. No way.
Milroe at 34 is too rich for my blood. I would love him would I pick him at the top of the third round as a developmental player? I would. I would pick him there. Even if you have to move up a couple of spots into the back end of round 2, I would consider that too. I wouldn't trade my other third round pick or even fourth. Like if you train like your 5 to move up like 8 picks or something like that to get him there, I'd be okay with that. But again, I think to Ryan's point, guys, like this is a sit for at least one season, and depending how he develops, maybe more. So he's not someone that's going to help you this year, unless you put a package together for his running skills. I mean, jokes aside, if he doesn't work out as a quarterback, you give him a chance there, 3-4 years doesn't work, he's 220 pounds and 6'2". He could be a running back. Like, just body type-wise, 6'2", 220, that's running back size.
He could also be a possession receiver.
Well, I don't know how he can catch. I've never seen him catch the ball. So you kind of have
that.
I kind of have to be able to catch in order to be the receiver.
That's true.
I know he can run, though. But again, try him a quarterback, develop him. But my point is not I want to convert the player. My point is that, please don't go there. My point is that that's how good his running skill is and his size is, that he would be capable of doing that. So you bring him in. You can build a package for his running ability early, get him on the field so he can help your team a little bit. But in terms of an every down quarterback, you're looking at a year or 2 before I think, in my opinion, he's ready.
He causes a lot of frenetic behavior just because of his legs. And if you're a defensive player and you're saying to yourself, okay, how am I going to deal with this guy? How am I going to break him down? You certainly can't put a spy on him because he's going to outrace the spy.
I mean, maybe if you make like a safety, that would be your only chance. You couldn't use a linebacker.
At 220, he might even run over the safety.
No, he might. Absolutely. No,
So-
look, he's a very impressive player.
If you wanted to use a package for him, I could see that right away. I could see that. I would have a hard time using a high draft choice, though, on a guy who's going to be a package quarterback. That would be a problem
Well,
for
that's
me.
why I said round 3.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
And then, I think both tight ends are day 3 guys.
Yes.
Deep Ray and Oots. Oots is the better blocker. He's got a heck of a mustache. I mean, you got to see Robbie Oots' mustache. It is wonderful.
I met Dupree at the Combine.
Okay.
He looks like he came right off the lot of Central Casting.
Hey, look, he's 6'5", 260, and
Holy
Oots is 6'4", 270.
smokes.
These are big, old school tight ends. How good is that mustache, Pearson? That's a pretty good. It looks like yeah, I mean, if you go back in time, he could have played with like Matt Millen back back in the day. Like that is like a Matt Millen level mustache. That is excellent.
Yes, a Raider.
And look, other guys like Malachi Moore, Q Robinson, who we didn't talk to him about, Tim Smith. Those are all day 3 guys. So I don't know. It might not be in the cards for an Alabama prospect getting to the Giants this year, but we'll see. They'll have a chance to draft Milroe, is my bet. I don't think he's going in the back end of the first round. I think he's a day 2 guy. So
no, I don't think so either. And I think, when we went to the Combine, John, there was still a lot of people who were talking of him in that potential region. By the time we were done in Indianapolis, neither one of us believed that he would be there. And that he would be a late first rounder. We didn't see it.
And the thing about his throwing motion, I talked about this when we were at the Senior Bowl, like he almost throws with all arm. Like he doesn't have like torque. He doesn't turn his body, flip his hits, and fire it. But the amazing thing is he still gets the ball out with velocity. Like his arm is insane.
He has
his
a cannon.
release is really quick.
Yes.
But to Ryan's point, and I kind of made the Chuck Knobloch yips joke. Like these short and intermediate passes.
Yeah.
That was the thing with Knobloch, right? It's the easy throws.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's a hesitation there. And like there's, to Ryan's point, maybe a lack of confidence. So that's something you're going to have to work on. And my guess is that's a mechanical thing, is that you can have to work on it.
He doesn't have much touch on his throws either, John. He doesn't feather a ball where it needs to be feathered
I'm trying to think back to his tape. I don't recall seeing a ton of that.
It's more he's throwing darts. And God bless him that he can throw like that.
Yeah.
But you got to feather some passes too, and he doesn't do that.
Yeah. But again, it's a shorter group of Alabama players. And again, I'm not an Alabama program expert, which is why I asked Ryan that question at the end. And he said a lot of guys have went back that could have came out in the draft, which would explain it. So you learn something new every day. All right, let's go to Fabian Manhattan. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hi, Fabian. How are you, buddy?
Hey, guys. You hear me good?
We loud and clear, man. What do you got?
Thanks for taking my call. I have 3 points. I'll try to be quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then if you guys let me know if this time I have a little rant I want to go on. But so I want to talk about Sanders going at 3. So like you mentioned, Field Yates and some other guys, they're still coming out with mock drafts showing Sanders at 3. And I don't think that's going to happen. And the reason I say that is because I think Shane, if he wanted Sanders at 3, like all these free agency moves you make, they have effects. So if you're Shane and you want Sanders at 3, that's conviction. And you'd be staying up at night afraid that you're going to get sniped by the 2 teams in front of you with Ward and Sanders, you know? So I think if you really wanted Sanders, you would tell Jameis, you'd say, Jameis, go re-sign with Cleveland, please. And then when Russ landed in Cleveland, you call him and you say, Russ, we're not interested, please sign with them. Now Cleveland traded for Pickett. They signed their backup that has a lot of fans over there. And you have a starter. So you're very less likely to draft Sanders if you're Cleveland at that point.
No, I hear
and
you.
now you're Shane, you have Sanders. You're more likely to get Sanders.
And here's the way I look at it too, Fabian, real quick. Even if they do, like let's say theoretically they draft Shador 3rd overall. In my opinion, he's not starting over Russell Wilson right away. Like I don't think so. So like you're using the 3rd overall pick in a year where the organization wants to win a lot of games or win more games at least, and then you're drafting a guy at 3rd that's not going to really help you there. So I don't know.
I don't have a problem. Like I wouldn't be upset if they did draft him because, like I said, that's conviction.
Right.
So,
of course,
these guys,
I'm with you on that.
They know what they're doing.
Yes.
But I just think it doesn't. It's not adding up for me.
Fair enough. All right, point number 2.
Agreed.
Point number 2, you guys could talk about it when I get off,
sure.
Please. I just want to know what you guys think about trading back. Like if you trade back into the top 10 and get somebody like Tatura McMillan, or in the top 20 and go for like someone like Dart, or one of these great linebackers you guys were talking about,
okay.
Great linebacker prospects.
Third question or point?
And then my third point, if you go BPA at 3 and you get Hunter or Carter, you trade Banks or Thibodeau, and if their contracts are expiring soon, and Shane is having a reputation of letting guys go for nothing, getting nothing in return, and we know how Thibodeau is. He's been talkative about other people's contracts. Like Barkley.
Banks has a lot of years left, and Thibodeau you can still pick up his 5th-year option,
which I imagine they will because it's only around $14 million. So
I
imagine
think so too.
So Thibodeau has 2 years left, and Banks has at least 2 years left, maybe 3. So they have some time on those guys.
Right. So I don't think that comes into play.
As trades. Sorry.
I think the other thing to keep in mind too with Thibodeau, right now his value is low. He's coming off of wrist surgery.
And so is Banks's.
But especially Thibodeau, he missed 5 games with wrist surgery. This isn't the 11.5 sack season he had the year before. So if you trade him now, you're getting pennies on the dollar. It makes no sense.
All right, Fabian, what's your rant?
Well, I think Shane at this point, like if you do draft one of those guys I was talking about, you have to know what you're doing, or at least like have your projections, what you're doing with these guys. It's a long thought process, and it opens up a whole Pandora's box, in my opinion. But Shane and Dayball, they both have a reputation of forcing guys to start as rookies over guys who are proven in the locker room already.
Such as?
They forced Wandale rookie season, right? Shepard was starting, and Kadarius Toney was starting. You had Slayton, who was Daniel Jones' best. They had the most. He was his favorite receiver since their rookie preseason. You had Slayton on the bench, and it took Shepard getting hurt. It took Kadarius Toney getting traded, and it's for you to get Slayton some play time. Then, you put Adoree Jackson, your CB1, to punt return. Then when he gets injured, he comes back and saves the season. He locked down JJ in the playoffs, and then the next season you force Banks. Well, you make him CB1 and you make Hawkins CB2 and you move Adoree to the slot, and then you force Theo Johnson on his rookie season over Bellinger, And I get it. You want to develop your guys, but like Bellinger was a completion guy. And a lot of times I saw Theo Johnson drop first down conversions. He did start breaking out and he got injured. The same thing happened with Wandale. He started breaking out, he got injured. And you have guys who you should, Bellinger should have had more playtime, in my opinion. And that's all.
All right, appreciate the call. I honestly haven't sensed that. I don't feel like we've gotten other callers with that complaint either, to be honest with you.
No.
Where you force the guys in early. I mean, I'm trying to remember Robinson's rookie year. I don't remember him being forced into the starting lineup right away. Am I remembering that wrong?
I don't recall, but the truth is, Wandale Robinson gave them a dynamic that they didn't have at the time. And so, to be honest, they were looking to get him out there because he was a gadget kind of receiver.
I mean,
that's some of the stuff that Dable wanted to do.
He didn't start weeks 1, 2, or 3, Robinson. He didn't start till week 4 of his rookie year.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Look, the Slayton thing, Slayton earned his way back in. I remember a lot of the guys you talked about, they weren't the guys that Dable and Shane brought in here either. They didn't draft those guys either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For a lot of those guys. So I think that's part of it. But honestly, I don't get that sense, Fabian, to be totally honest with you, that they fed guys into the lineup. But I really don't. You talk about Adoree going into the slot. The slot's an important spot. And he was the only guy they thought was capable of playing it.
Sometimes
so if anything,
it's necessity.
They trusted him more because of his veteranness to play the spot. Now, it didn't work out when all was said and done. But that's more of a matter of they didn't believe the other two guys could do it. They thought maybe Adoree could.
You can't just like the traits of some of these guys too, like Wandale and Theo. Like I would. Yeah,
especially when you're a rebuilding team, right? You want to get your young guys out on the field. So yeah, I'm with you on that. And then he wanted us to talk about trading down potentially, right? I'd be open to it if you can get a really good package back. I think the strength of this draft class, after you get past the two elite guys at top in Travis Hunter and Abdul Hunter, I think you're getting, what did I say? Hunter. Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. What did I say? Travis Carter?
Yes.
Did I say Travis Carter?
Something along those lines.
Sorry. So I think the sweet spot where you get a lot of value in this draft, Paul, is right in the second round.
Yeah.
So if you can get another second round pick in there and move down, maybe 10 spots, I don't think Tet McMillan's a guy I would target. I think you have enough at wide receiver right now. And I like Tet McMillan, by the way. I think he's going to be a really good player. I like him more than other people do. I know you do as well. He's a bigger guy. But I think if you're trading down into that, I don't know how far Jalen Walker's going to drop. But if you could trade down and get like a Jalen Walker who could be like an off-ball linebacker and a pass rusher for you, that's a guy that would have me excited. Could you trade back, and then maybe draft like an Armand Membo who could be a starting right tackle for you, and then you can move Illuminor into guard? Like that's something you could talk about, right? Is there, maybe you like Michael Williams as a different type of pass rusher, right? If you go back into the teens, I know a lot of people think, Derek Harmon might drop to the Giants at 34. I watched him today. He's awesome. Like, that guy's not getting out of the first round. So if you want to get to, like, the late teens and early 20s and draft Derek Harmon, like, I'd be okay with that. I don't think you would go corner. I mean, I'm trying to think of... I think if you go into the 20s, you could talk about Tyler Booker there. We just mentioned him with Alabama.
I think I need to remind you of what you and I agreed on previous to this, and that is... You're not moving down from 3, and nor am I unless I'm getting at least a first-round pick next year.
I never said that.
You didn't say that. I thought you did.
And I told you you're not getting that.
You got to try.
No, but you're not getting it. Stop throwing out unrealistic trades.
Even if you move into the 20s?
If you move into the 20s,
that
you
far,
might.
You're getting it.
Yeah, but then you're not getting it to this year.
I understand that. I'm not passing on Hunter. If he's there at 3, I can't pass on him. Carter... Again, my medical staff is going to have to make that decision for me. But if I have a chance to get either one of those guys, it's either a first rounder next year in the package or I'm not doing it. And that's fine. You say I'm not going to get it, then that's okay. Then I don't get it and I take the player. I'm good with that.
Like Paul's not willing to use the 1 to go up the first overall, but then he wants a 1 to go from like 3 to 7.
Whatever it takes, I will ask for a 1 for next year because that's going to give me some protection.
I get it. Look, I'm all about getting the 1 for next year, so you can then attack the quarterback position when you have to. Look, I get that. I'm with you on that 100%. So yeah, I would. Bottom line, yes, I would entertain a trade down in this particular draft class because I do think the draft gets very flat once you get to like the 20 to 50 area. I think it's pretty flat. Like there's not a ton of difference between a lot of these guys.
Right.
So I think that was all his questions, right? I think we got everything in there.
I think we did.
201-939-4513. Let's go to Cliff in New York. Cliff, you're up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Then Ted, you're up after that. What's happening, Cliff?
Hey guys, listen, I was got Mason Graham on the brain. There was a couple of opinions this week that nobody thinks he's going to go past the 5th pick. I got a couple of questions about how they look at taking a guy in his position that high. Isn't there a business consideration that has to do, like you want to use your top picks to get against the most expensive positions like cornerback and quarterback?
Well, Cliff, pass rushing defensive tackles, it's probably after defensive end and wide receiver, it's probably the 3rd most expensive position in the league now. That and offensive tackle, they're probably pretty close, right?
The problem is there's so few of them who are that impactful.
Look, I realize a lot of people out there have trouble with basic economics these days, but supply and demand is the basics of all economic policy.
Doubt.
If there's not a lot of something and they're tough to find, they're going to be more expensive. So, Cliff, I think if you believe Mason Graham is going to be an elite pass rushing defensive tackle, value-wise, there is no problem picking him in the top 5.
Cliff, he's going to be that good. I mean, every mock that I see has him being taken in the top 5.
I'll tell you what, though. I think I'd rather have Harmon in the late teens, early 20s than Graham at 4 or 3 from a value perspective. Harmon's very good.
Yes, he is.
And he weighs about 25 pounds more than Mason Graham does, too.
I know.
Well, that leads to my other question about this, which was how much of a drop is there? I think we've said 20 defensive tackles in this draft could go in the first 2 rounds, if not the first 3.
Wait, 20 defensive tackles? No, there's not going to be 20 defensive tackles.
No, I think the number Matt has quoted, Daniel Jeremiah, who I believe has said there's 24 defensive tackles in the first 4 rounds. I think that's what Jeremiah said.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. Well, the question is, how much of a drop-off is there after Mason?
I think you're looking at a tier. Looking at a tier.
He's alone.
Yeah.
Like, to give you an idea, like I have Mason Graham probably as my 4th player, and Derek Harmon will probably end up being like my 17th or 18th player or something like that. So,
he's on a shelf by himself. There's no question about that. You do have to go to another shelf.
But again, he does have, look, and this has had a lot of guys this year, and I think when guys, Cliff and Paul and Pearson, do not work out, that tells me they would not have worked out well. Because if they were going to work out well, they would have worked out. And
perhaps
we've been burned before with guys that, like last year, just to give an example. We're like, oh, Marvin Harrison, he was a shoo-in top 3 pick. He didn't have to work out.
Mm-hmm.
You have to watch him this year. Don't you wish you had a 40 number on Marvin Harrison Jr. with the way he played this year? Didn't look like he was that fast on the field, did it?
No.
So I think, when guys, and look, there's a lot of these guys, right? Mason Graham didn't work out. Kenneth Grant from Michigan did not work out. I'm trying to think of the other guys that did not do anything. Tyler Warren from Penn State at a position that is very traits-based these days did not work out.
Athleticism is huge for a tight end.
That's a worry for me, especially the history, Paul. And Tony Pauline and I talked about this on the draft season. Penn State has one of the best strength and conditioning programs in the whole country.
They do.
You have players coming out of there that aren't really that good, and they're blowing up their workouts.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that Warren didn't work out, that's a worry for me. So I think you look at those groups of guys, and Will Johnson, another Michigan guy, he did not work out. There's a number of them. And to me, that always makes me worry a little bit. We already know he's undersized. We already know he has short arms. And if his athletic testing is no good too, and the tape's awesome.
Yeah.
I love him as a player.
Yeah.
If you're just looking at the tape, I get why you're saying what you're saying. But look, those things matter in the National Football League. They do.
They do.
So that's what makes me a little bit hesitant putting him too close to call. By the way, Travis Hunter hasn't worked out either. Just for the record, he didn't work out either.
I appreciate the line of thinking, John. I wonder, though, that with the power of these agents today, And some of these players just don't want to stand on their own 2 feet. They will get swayed.
Paul,
and the agent says, you're not working out. The guy doesn't work out.
If they were testing well in training, they would work out.
You would think so.
Oh, I know so. Did Malik Neighbors run on his pro day last year?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why?
Well, he knew.
Because he's fast.
He knew.
That's why. Because he's fast.
Yeah.
That's why. Roma Dunze. Do you know why he did all his workouts? Because he knew he would get good numbers on them.
I could understand the agent's perspective, though. The agent is saying, you know what?
No, that's
we know
fine.
you're so high.
And I get
and
that.
you have nothing to gain. You're only going to have something to lose.
And that's absolutely the case sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Like, and I'll give you another example. You know another player that did not work out this year? Ashton Genty.
I know.
He has not done anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his tape's so ridiculous, I don't care. I got to be honest with you. Because he's got size, he's got power.
I know.
His weight is in the right spot. So him, I'll be okay with it. Because I don't think testing for running backs is super duper important anyway. I've seen running backs not test off the charts and still be awesome players.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, that's another guy. So it's not a red flag for me. But it's a yellow flag where it's like, give it a closer look and maybe have a little bit of doubt. Don't you wish you would have had athletic testing on Evan Neal?
Sure.
And all we heard was what a great athlete he was. He had the viral video about him doing that box jump and doing the split and catch himself in midair.
Mm-hmm.
He never even did position drills during the process.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it doesn't necessarily mean something, but It could. It could. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry, Cliff. I didn't mean to.
That's all right.
He
hijacked the call.
The other thing about the DTs, and I don't mean the nose guy. I'm talking about the 3 technique, really. If he's really an elite DT, and he steps into this defense, doesn't that mean it's entirely possible that picking him would help the secondary, which has already been significantly upgraded?
Yeah, it would.
And would taking an elite corner instead to upgrade the secondary further really be the best thing for the team from that point of view?
Thank you, Cliff. Appreciate the call. I don't think drafting a corner high is in the cards anymore after spending that money on a Debo. That's just my gut feeling about that. I could be wrong. And look, get to round 4 or 5 and you feel good about one. Fine, pick one. But any year, the 3 picks in the top 65, I don't think I'd go corner there. I just don't know how they're getting on the field.
I don't see it happening unless it's Hunter.
Right,
because of who he is.
Yeah, Hunter's special. Hunter would be the exception to the rule. I 100% agree with that.
Cliff, I think the problem is when you watch the video of Graham, it's so easy to close your eyes and picture him next to Dexter Lawrence and doing what he does.
Yeah, 100%. Same thing for Derek Harmon, by the way.
I mean, how many times have you seen the guy lose a rep?
No,
he's an absolute high-octane motor who just gives you everything he's got on every play.
I believe the expression that Daniel Jeremiah uses is block of destruction. He destroys blocks.
He does.
Yeah, he does. He's really good.
And you think about putting him next to Dexter, and I think that's what kind of gets you carried away. And you say, my God, this dynamic duo would just be incredible together.
Yeah, I know. To feel as comfortable as I need to be to pick a guy that high.
And I get it.
I need to, especially when they're under. Now, if he was some massive, jacked up, great frame guy,
I know,
then I'd feel a little bit better about it. But
I would understand.
It's all the factors together. You know what I mean?
I don't blame you for being a tad queasy on him. I don't. I totally get it.
I'm the one that told you about him. I love him as a player. You watch him, you're like, this guy's awesome. He's great. But
it didn't take long, John. It didn't take much video to just start to salivate.
It's obvious.
That's what he is.
It's obvious. He's a really good player. He's a good football player. All right, Ted in Queens will wrap us up today. Hi, Ted.
Hi. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, thanks, Ted. Welcome aboard. What do you got?
Yeah. 2 questions. Number 1, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, what were their draft reports? What was the prevailing opinion about those guys going into the draft?
Josh Allen was a unbelievably freaky sized guy, an absolute cannon, mobile. the perfect frame and physical attributes you would want as a quarterback. He was just extremely inaccurate throwing the football. And it took him 2 years in the National Football League to get that figured out. And once he did, everything clicked, and he was an absolute beast. As for Lamar Jackson, great athlete, obviously. Actually played in a relatively pro system at Louisville when he was there. So you could tell he kind of understood how to play quarterback. That wasn't a thing for him. But his outside the numbers accuracy was a struggle, which, by the way, also for him continued in the early part of his NFL career. It's taken the last 2 or 3 years for that to catch up to the rest of his game, which was always good. And I think, that's why he dropped the way he did, because his outside the number accuracy wasn't great, even though he checked a lot of other boxes.
So in light of that, perhaps Jalen Milroe isn't as far of a prospect with the kind of upside that he has and the kind of athleticism that he has. Perhaps he could become what Lamar and Josh have become.
Well, good question, Ted. I'm sorry, Paul. He is way behind.
Exactly.
Where and I'll use Lamar because I think he's less of a Josh Allen, more of a Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was a far more advanced passer than Jalen Milroe was.
Much more.
Okay.
Much more.
Okay.
Milroe, for lack of a better term, when he gets to the NFL, he's going to be very raw.
I'm not going to say
because there's a lot of stuff he's got to work on.
He's not Malik.
Sure.
He's not Malik Willis level raw. He's between Willis and Lamar, closer to Lamar, I think, but he's kind of in that zone.
Okay, and then my second question, in light of Joe Shane's philosophy of the wisdom of trading down and getting more swings and adding depth, do you think that there's a greater possibility of that happening in this draft, where the middle is is where the meat of the draft is?
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate the call. Excellent question. I was thinking about this. The fact that there are really only, at least in my opinion, and it seems to be the consensus in fairness, 2 elite players at the top of this draft in Hunter or Carter. And you know me, Paul, I always say I'm not going to count on a trade-up unless it's for a quarterback because that's what teams want to trade up for. That is my philosophy.
And you're right.
I do think this class is a little bit unique where you only have those 2 elite players, and there might be a team, especially given how unique Travis Hunter is as a two-way guy, and, pass rushers always are valuable no matter what year you're talking about with Abdul Carter. There might be a team, again, because I think it drops after those 2, and then there's another drop probably around 15 or so. There might be a team that wants to get one of those elite guys and is willing to give you something for it.
I would suspect that the teams up top, the Titans, the Browns, and the Giants, are in such a position where they desperately need impact players that I think the price for anybody to move up with one of those teams is going to be exorbitant, especially if you're talking about the back of the line.
I would have a hard time
trading.
Look, how often do you want to be picking third? How often, like same thing with last year with Neighbors, how often, and look, you're getting a Neighbors level player, right? Like they're in the same grade category as me. Like Neighbors last year, Joe Alt, Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter are in that conversation.
Yeah, these guys were blue chip guys.
The blue chip guys, correct. You don't get access. Like, for example, the Giants had the 2 picks when they drafted Thibodeau at 5 and Neal at 7.
Yes.
Neither of those guys were blue chips. They were on the level after that when we talked about picking them, right? In fact, I think there was only, on my board, only had 1 blue chip guy in that whole class. I think it was Aiden Hutchinson, and that's it. So it was just, and that's how it works sometimes, right? So it's hard to trade out of one of those guys that can be a very difference maker for you.
Very, very hard. And that's why I would make the price exorbitant, and I don't think anyone's going to pay it. And that's why I don't think there's likely to be a trade up top. I just don't. But we'll see.
Let me do a quick exercise.
It's really hard. Think about if you're one of these 3 teams that does badly need an impact guy, and you decide you're going to move down, and you pass on an impact guy. As John says, you don't want to be in this position very often.
No, unfortunately, the Giants have been, but you don't.
No, I know. But there are so few guys in each draft who are, quote, impact guys. It's just these headache players. I don't think the price is going to be there for anybody to do it.
All right, real quick. I'm going to throw 2 options at you. Then we got to go eat. Jaguars call you. Just move down 2 spots.
The 5.
Yeah. because they want Travis Hunter, let's say, because they need a second wide receiver and a corner, right?
Okay.
You will get their second round pick.
I probably would not do it.
What if I gave you like a 3?
It depends now. It depends. Is Hunter on the board or is he gone?
Let's say Hunter's gone.
If Hunter's gone...
Let's say Hunter's gone. Let's say like, it's Ward, Hunter, the first 2 picks.
Ward and Hunter are the first 2 picks. Let me see what I can squeeze out of them, but I would certainly consider the
Okay,
trade.
all right. I've tempted Paul with that one. That's pretty good. Here's my other one.
Because I might still be able to get Graham at 5. There's a real chance I can.
Or you'll get him or Carter.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, we don't
More
know what
likely
Carter's
than not.
medicals are.
But, all right, the other option, because they're crazy and they do crazy things, the Saints love trading up and getting That's what they do. They just love trading up getting and trading away draft picks. So that's going all the way down to 9. The Saints are desperate, though. They want to impact
Dick
players
is
down
not there anymore to make the deal for Ricky Williams.
So to go from 3 to 9, Paul, I'm giving you a 2 and a 3 this year that belong to the Saints, and I'll give you like a 5 next season. So you will get picks. I will tell you exactly what picks they are.
Well, I haven't done the calculation.
I'm go on feel.
Feel?
You're getting pick 40,
Right.
and you're getting pick. Where's the other Saints pick? And you're getting pick 71.
Again, now, when I'm up, is Hunter still on the board?
No, I'll say Hunter's gone.
Hunter's gone.
Yeah, Hunter's gone. You're getting 40 and 71 to move down 6 spots to 9. And that's an overpay if you go by the trade chart, I believe. 6 spots to 9. You get 41. What did I say? 41 and 70, whatever it was. Yeah, it's tempting.
It is. I would be chewing on it, but I don't think I would do it. See, what I might do if I were to do it, I'd have to have something else in place where I could flop some picks for next year. I want to get some more picks next year in case I need the collateral.
So what if the Saints said, we won't give you any picks this year, but we'll give you next year's one? But you get no picks this year. So you don't have a first-round pick. And you get no extra collateral later in the draft. I'll give you that as a second option. They'll say, all right, either 2 and 3 this year or 1 next year, but nothing else.
I can't do that.
Because the Saints don't care about the future.
Yeah.
I'm giving you what you want. I'm giving you your 1 next year, man.
Yeah, but now I'm not picking until 35.
Well,
right?
I know. Well, you're not getting a 1 and something else
No,
this year.
I know. Well, you know what I could do? I could counter and give you a flop somewhere. I could do that.
I mean, you're not going to move up much, but
I'm just saying.
I mean, you could then trade back in round 2 and pick up an extra pick.
The only strategy that I have about getting picks next year is to stockpile collateral in case I need to make a trade next year and move up.
To get a quarterback, I get it.
And that's why for me, any trade involving picks has to get that shopping cart needs to be full.
Well, that's why I'm offering you the 1 next year.
Yeah,
I'm trying to fill your cart.
I know you are. So you're not flopping picks with me? You're just taking my pick and giving me the 1 next year?
No. I'm
Oh, you're giving me the 9?
Of course I'm giving you 9, yeah.
Oh, okay, because you said no. You said I wouldn't have a first round
I'm
pick.
not giving you any other extra collateral this year. You're just getting 1 next year and you're swapping in the first round.
I would seriously consider doing that. Again, I'd have to see what's on the board at that point. But if Hunter is gone,
you're right. I misspoke
I would
before.
seriously consider.
You would
doing
have
that.
the Saints' first round pick at 9, but you're not getting any.
So
other
I'm getting
picks.
9 and a 1 next year.
Yes.
I think we could do that.
Okay. I think I would do that too.
Yeah.
I would do that too. All right. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live. Thanks for being with us. Presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I'm sorry for confusing you there. I did not phrase that correctly. You're right. You would get the 9, but you wouldn't get any other picks. For Pearson Butler, for Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. We'll see you next time, everybody.